a moment and imagine the night sky. Look up at that vast, glittering darkness. For most of us today, it is just scenery. But for the ancient rishis of India, the sky was something far more serious. It was a clock. It was a calendar. It was a living record of time itself. All of us grew up hearing the stories of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. We know the heroes. We know the villains. We know the moral dilemmas. But there is one question we were never given a clear answer to. When did these events happen? Did they happen at all? Or are they merely mythology, beautiful stories created by poets? For the last 200 years, textbooks have repeated a single idea, that Indian civilization is relatively young. We were told that the Mahabharata, if it happened at all, was a small tribal conflict around 1000 or 1500 BC. Everything before that was described as darkness, unrecorded, uncivilized, unknowable. Today, that darkness is being questioned. Today, we are not talking about belief or sentiment. We are talking about data, logic, and the scientific method. And at the center of this re-examination is one researcher whose work has forced historians to confront uncomfortable questions, Nilesh Neelkant Oak. Nilesh Oak is not a traditional historian. He is an engineer and a corporate executive. His approach is neither devotional nor dismissive. He does not begin with faith, nor with the assumption that ancient Indians were primitive. He begins with curiosity, Kutula. He asked a simple but dangerous question. If the epics contain precise astronomical observations, can we reconstruct the ancient sky and verify when those observations were actually possible? The answers he arrived at are controversial, challenging, and impossible to ignore. Let us first understand the problem. Over the last 4 centuries, more than 130 different dates have been proposed for the Mahabharata war. Some place it at 3102 BC because of the traditional start of Kali Yuga. Others argue for 1400 BC, 1000 BC, or even later. Why such chaos? Because most attempts relied on selective reading. Researchers chose 1 or 2 verses that fit their assumptions and quietly ignored dozens that did not. Oak did the opposite. He searched for observations that could not be poetic imagination, observations that could only come from direct visual experience. And this is where we encounter what he calls the smoking gun. In the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata, there is a striking statement, Arundhati is seen walking ahead of Vasishtha. Astronomically, this is extraordinary. Arundhati and Vasishtha, known today as Alcor and Mizar, are a well-known stellar pair. In the night sky of our era, and for thousands of years before us, Vasishtha clearly leads and Arundhati follows. In our current epoch, Arundhati cannot appear ahead. So was this poetic fantasy? Oak spent nearly 15 years investigating this single claim using astronomical simulations. And what he discovered is remarkable. Due to the slow wobble of Earth's axis, axial precession, the apparent orientation of stars changes over long periods of time. There exists a narrow window in history when Arundhati could indeed appear ahead of Vasishtha. That window opens around 11,000 BC and closes decisively around 4,500 BC. This matters because it does something rare in historical research, it falsifies. Any theory that places the Mahabharata after 4500 BC is incompatible with this observation. The sky simply did not look that way anymore. One observation alone, however, is not enough. Science demands triangulation. So the question becomes, do other descriptions in the Mahabharata independently point to the same time frame? Consider the passing of Bhishma Pitamaha. Popular tradition often states that he waited 58 days on his bed of arrows. But when the lunar and solar positions described in the text are examined carefully, 58 days does not align. Oak's analysis shows that the astronomical conditions described require a waiting period of over 90 days, until the winter solstice. Then come the planetary descriptions. The Mahabharata describes Mars in 8 distinct positions during the course of the war. Individually, such descriptions could be dismissed. Taken together, they form a highly constrained astronomical pattern. When these observations are simulated, they converge on a single narrow time frame. The result is striking. The Mahabharata war aligns most consistently with the year 5561 BC. This is not presented as blind belief, but as a hypothesis grounded in multiple independent astronomical constraints. Once this method is applied successfully to the Mahabharata, it can be extended to the Ramayana. Using Valmiki's detailed celestial references, lunar phases, planetary positions, seasonal markers, Oak proposes a date around 12,209 BC for the events of the Ramayana. Naturally, this raises immediate skepticism. 12,000 years ago, during the end of the Ice Age, were humans really capable of complex societies then? This skepticism itself reveals an inherited assumption that history progresses in a single straight line from primitive to advanced. But the Indian texts challenge this linear model. They describe sophisticated political systems, ethical debates, urban planning, metallurgy, and long-distance travel. Geology and oceanography add another layer to this discussion. The Mahabharata describes the submergence of Dwarka. Modern sea level studies show rapid post-glacial rise events. One significant rise occurs around 5525 BC, roughly 3 decades after the proposed Mahabharata war date. This does not prove the epic, but it creates a convergence between text and natural history that demands serious investigation rather than dismissal. These timelines also force a re-evaluation of older theories. The idea of an Aryan invasion around 1500 BC bringing civilization, language, and culture into India collapses if complex Vedic society already existed millennia earlier. Genetic studies from sites like Rakhigarh show continuity rather than replacement. Hydrological studies confirm that the Saraswati was once a major river system that gradually dried up. Taken together, these findings suggest long-term cultural continuity rather than sudden external origin. Why does any of this matter today? Because history is not just about dates. It shapes how a civilization sees itself. When a society is repeatedly told that its past is shallow or borrowed, it begins to doubt its own intellectual inheritance. When its foundational texts are dismissed as fantasy, their philosophical depth is also quietly ignored. If figures like Rama and Krishna are approached not merely as symbols but as potential historical personalities, shaped by memory, poetry, and time, their ideas become more grounded, not less. The Bhagavad Gita then becomes not a mythic abstraction, but a recorded human response to moral crisis. This research does not demand blind acceptance. It demands honest engagement. Nilesh Oak has not closed the debate, he has reopened it, armed with data instead of assumptions. His work invites verification, criticism, and refinement. And that is exactly how knowledge advances. So the next time you look up at the stars, remember this. Those lights are not just decoration. They are records. They are witnesses. Our ancestors watched the same sky, carefully, patiently, obsessively, and left behind clues written in poetry. Itihasa means, thus, it indeed happened. And today, science is giving us new tools to ask whether it truly did. Jai Hind.